Hello dear friends, it's Northern Deer, Alexander here, and I'm making this video today because I want to talk to you about the full moon that will be in 2 days. It will be on 4th of November, and generally to talk to you about the full moon, what does it mean, how we should see this, how to use this in our life. Is it something real that we should consider it, or is it like something like a fiction? Yes. So I'm walking today in this park near the ashram, and in Bucharest it's a sunny cold day here, and it is a perfect time to speak about this, because it is observed that when there is this period of the full moon, some things are changing in us and some things are happening. Now the thing is that these things are not observed in general from everyone. Yes, in order to observe something like this, you need to know it beforehand in order to somehow catch it. And this is one of the things that I would like to discuss with you, is that generally people do not believe in this kind of things. Yes, I mean the general public, the average majority of people, they would say, come on, full moon, what is this? This is like superstitions. Yes, and up to a point they are right, because of course these things they have been exaggerated in the past in order to make them obvious. They have been also exaggerated, but in reality what happens is that, of course, there is an influence, magnetic influence of the moon, that influences also physically, yes, the water and so on. And of course, even if we use the logic, we can understand that we are made of 75% of water, our body, so it is possible that also our body is influenced magnetically from the pressure of the moon. So how it's possible that the full moon influences the tides, yes, of the oceans? So there is an influence there. So the same happens in our psyche, but why it is not observed from the majority of people? First of all, because they don't have it in their minds to observe. The average people don't think about the full moon, that it is the full moon. Maybe they hear it, but they don't consider it as something more important. They go about their everyday life, doing their everyday work, and that's it. And this thing, the full moon, is passing from their life and is going, and they don't even consider it at all. They don't even think that it was the full moon. So one thing is this, so it just goes unnoticed externally that there is full moon today. Another thing is that in order to observe something, it has to be like something noticeable. Yes, and many times this influence of the full moon is not so intensive, not so intense, in order for people to notice. There are things that happen in their lives, but they are not so big, the influences, to say, oh my god, look what happened. So because if there would be big influences, it would be more easy for someone to notice it. So the influences are many times, in the majority, are subtle, and also because they are not big, and also because people then don't consider to observe this, it goes unnoticed. And so if somebody hears that there is an influence of the full moon, he will say, no, I don't believe that. And also because even if sometimes there are bigger influences, many people simply don't know about the full moon, and that it could connect in their consciousness, that the full moon and something that happens in their life, they are somehow connected. They would not observe it. Yes, because you need to know this and observe it every month, for example, in order to start understanding the patterns that are activated. So what in reality happens? So there are some influences, and the moon represents some part of our psyche, represents some energy that exists in us, and when there is the full moon, all this is simply enhanced. It becomes more. Yes. So in your everyday life you have also this influence of the moon, let's say 10%, in full moon you will have it more, like 50%. And because of this, you can start observing it in these moments. But you need to, as we said, to know it beforehand to start observing it. So for us, spiritual people who want to evolve, to observe all this is necessary, because in this moment you can become aware of some things that appear in your life. Usually all these that are connected with the moon have to do with your emotions. And usually there are patterns that are activated, but of course everyone has his own patterns. One of the patterns, for example, can be melancholy or sentimentality. So you start feeling low emotionally. You start remembering maybe your ex-boyfriend. You start falling into the past. Many people have this kind of pattern. You start remembering how your life was good in the past and how it's not good now. You start feeling like this, how difficult is my life. You start becoming low. Other pattern, for example, for people is that they become more irritated easily. Now I was going outside in the street, and immediately I was thinking about to make this video, and immediately I had some signs. People were irritated in the street, people who were passing the street, cars that were coming to them, horns, angry people. Yes, so this kind of aggressivity, so the suppressed feelings that you didn't express in your life when you wanted to say something and so on in the past, now they are a little bit pushed out from the moon, so you can become a little bit more easily irritated. So you can having maybe more easily arguments with others, fights even, and so on. Another thing that can be enhanced in these days is, for example, some bad habits, indulgence. Yes, or let's say if you are trying to quit smoking, these days will be more difficult to quit smoking. You will feel more needy. You become more needy. Or other patterns. So you can be more irritated, for example, you can be hurt more easily, your ego can be more intense, thinking about who you are, like in a wrong way. There's the ego. Laziness can appear more, and generally when the full moon is activated, the bad spirits, what we say in shamanism, the bad spirits can be more active, because you become more more passive energetically. Yes, and this is why from ancient time people were doing some kind of rituals. Today, of course, maybe it's more difficult to do rituals under the moon, to go in some forest or some mountain, if you can do it. But what you can do is to be aware of all this and observe how the moon influences you, what patterns appear in your life. And if you observe what patterns have the tendency to appear, you can do something, your own ritual, or you can make specific actions against this, like to neutralize this influence. For example, if you see that you become more passive, you can on purpose put your will to become more active in this moment. If you feel, for example, that all patterns, habits are enhanced, so you start indulging in some things, you are drinking more, you are eating more sweets, you are smoking more, something in this sense, like passive habits come to you more and more, and you become more lazy or something like that, you can on purpose observe this and make effort to go against this and train yourself to have the antidote of this energy. This is something that you can do. For example, if you see that people are irritated around you, or you get irritated, you start entering into some conflicts in these days, you can be observing this and try to avoid 2-3 times more, to try to avoid conflicts. So if you, and one of the good things is that the full moon doesn't appear suddenly, only in the day of the full moon. Usually this influence starts to become more and more gradual. Depending also on the level of your evolution, it can start the influence earlier or later. For example, approximately 3 days around the full moon, before and after, you need to be more aware of what is happening. And this is why I'm making this video today, because today is like 2 days before the full moon, and to remind you to be more aware of what is happening. And I do this video also because I had some signs exactly that this will help a lot of people who will see this video to become more aware and understand some patterns that they have. So from spiritual point of view, if you want to evolve spiritually, also this is a chance for you to observe what are the patterns connected with this energy yin, the energy of the moon in your being, because around the full moon these patterns are enhanced, are becoming more strong, and you can observe them. So you can understand through this what you have to work in your life in order to evolve, yes, in order to clean these old patterns. So with this, more or less, this is what I wanted to tell you, and I hope you will take this knowledge from ancient times and use it in your life and observe the influence of the full moon. Observe what are the tendencies that appear in these days in you, work with yourself and create some positive karma in these days instead of negative. Yes? Okay, I'm signing off. I wish you the best and I hope to see you soon. Namaste from my heart and from the sunny Bucharest. Bye bye.